Buongiorno! It's near the end of the workday and you're exhausted. If you only had a little pick-me-up to get you through, well, grazie agli italiani. Our droopy-eyed afternoons are over. Tiramisu just might be the pick-me-up you need. Consider this. Strawberry-soaked, light and airy sweet cookies covered with a mascarpone egg custard and topped with strawberries and chocolate. Que buono! The traditional coffee and cocoa are great, but why not try strawberries and chocolate with the same traditional cookies and cream? Let's check it out. As usual with food inventions, no one really knows exactly where the tiramisu originated. Pick the tale you want to believe. See my recipe link below in the description for the 3 common tales about this tiramisu dessert. Regardless of its origins, it's a dessert loved by many, and no one can deny that tiramisu means pick-me-up, due to the caffeine-enriched ingredients of coffee and cocoa powder. Today, it is considered one of the world's most favorite desserts. Today's bake focuses on the mascarpone egg custard that truly make the dish what it is. Instead of the traditional coffee and cocoa, I decided on a tiramisu with a twist. I'm going strawberries and chocolate to make it more family friendly. But I will tell you how to make the traditional coffee and cocoa version as we go. It's very simple. You just swap the strawberries and the strawberry syrup for coffee and cocoa. It's that easy. See my recipe below in the description for both tiramisu versions. I don't know about you, but I'm about ready for a tiramisu pick-me-up. Let's get this party started. For the entire strawberry tiramisu recipe ingredients, you'll need milk, strawberry syrup, eggs, superfine granulated sugar, vanilla extract, mascarpone cheese, heavy whipping cream, Savoiardi ladyfingers, homemade or store-bought, I am using homemade here, fresh strawberries, dark chocolate chips, and or a good dark chocolate bar that you can grate or create chocolate curls over the top for decoration. Let's get the tiramisu layer ingredients ready. So we're going to first prepare our strawberries. We're going to wash them, cut them, and dice them into small chunks. So we're going to use I'm using an 11 by 8 inch rectangle pan. If you have a 9 by 9 square, that'd be great. I'm going to create a 2-layer tiramisu because we've got a pretty thick cream that's going in here, so I think 2 layers will be fine. And so we're going to do a layer of cookies, a layer of cream, and a layer of strawberries. My first layer of strawberries I want in chunks, and I just want them to cover the whipped topping, right? And then the top layer of strawberries, we want them to be pretty, so I'm going to slice those strawberries to go on the top. We want enough strawberries cut here that will cover at least 1 layer of this pan. And I'm just going to dice them and put them in a bowl along with my garbage bowl here just to keep everything sort of together. Okay, this is the amount I set aside to go on the first layer of strawberries. I'm gonna leave a few out and have a few extra in case this isn't enough, but this should be enough. If not, we've got more to cut. I'm gonna leave some out to slice to go on top, but I'm not gonna slice those yet. So this is ready to go. For the strawberry soaking liquid, we're going to pour in about 300 milliliters of milk. I'm using whole milk here, but you can use whatever milk that you like. I like the whole milk because it has a little bit more thickness to it and it'll stick more onto the cookies. So we're going to pour this into a medium-sized bowl, and I prefer to use one with more of a flatter bottom because we want to be able to put our cookies in there and let them sort of lie flat to soak them real fast. And then we're going to add to the milk 50 milliliters of strawberry syrup. Whatever strawberry syrup you can find is good. I'm using the Italian Tiramisu. 50 milliliters is about 3.5 tablespoons, so not very much. And we're just going to whisk these two together. Just make sure they're well mixed, and we're going to set them aside. For the traditional coffee version, just substitute a strong coffee like espresso for the milk, and substitute coffee, liqueur, brandy, or rum for the strawberry syrup. And you just follow the same directions. Kids will love strawberry milk. That's what this is. And I'm just going to put this in the refrigerator until we need it. Let's make the mascarpone egg custard. Traditional Italian tiramisu uses raw eggs for the entire mascarpone egg cream layer. But For food safety reasons as outlined by the FDA, I'm cooking my egg yolks over simmering water on the stove and using heavy whipping cream in place of the whipped egg whites. We want to separate our egg whites from our egg yolks, and we're going to only use the egg yolks in this recipe. Just save your egg whites and put them in a separate bowl and just use them for something else. You could do an egg white omelet or whatever you want to use them for. And the eggs are at room temperature because we want the egg yolks relatively warm when we put them over the stove, because we don't want to quick cook them. We just want to create a bit of a custard out of these yolks. So we still want them runny so that they look raw, but they're not going to be because they will have simmered over hot water. And we're using 4 egg yolks for this. Place your egg yolks in a bowl big enough where you can add other ingredients, but also one that's big enough to place in a saucepan that you can simmer. You want the egg yolks to sit somewhat in the pan because we want to make sure that the heat reaches those egg yolks, but at the same time, you don't want your bowl to be close to the bottom because we want that water to be well below the bottom of our bowl here. In a double boiler or saucepan, we're going to add about 2 inches of water, just enough to not evaporate, but not too much to reach the bowl. We're going to heat on medium heat over the stove just before boiling, then turn down the heat and allow the water to simmer. While we're heating up the water, to our 4 egg yolks, we're going to add a half a cup of sugar. We're going to whisk it in, and we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla and whisk it in. And once our water gets to simmering, then we're going to place this bowl over the water, not touching it in any way, and continue to whisk for 5 solid minutes while the eggs cook. So this is a custard. You can skip the heating step if you are generally healthy and use pasteurized eggs. Unfortunately, pasteurized eggs are difficult to find in stores. They are labeled pasteurized and they have the letter P stamped on the eggs if you can find them. If you're using pasteurized eggs, then you don't have to heat this unless you're young, pregnant, or you're immunocompromised, and you should always cook the eggs according to FDA and the USDA. All right, notice that our water's starting to move around a bit. It's coming to a simmer. So let's turn it down. I'm going to turn mine down to like a level 3 because I still want it to move. I don't want it to cool down so much that it doesn't really heat up the eggs. So then we're going to take our bowl of the egg mixture, put it on top. I'm going to keep tabs of the water, just make sure it doesn't boil and touches the bottom of the bowl. Now we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes, and we're going to whisk constantly for 5 minutes. And this will cook the egg yolks. Our 5 minutes are up. Notice our yolk mixture has lightened even more in color. So let's remove it from our hot saucepan with water. And we're just going to whisk it for about a minute to let it cool down. All right, notice how beautiful that custard is. It's just the egg and the sugar and the vanilla. All right, at this point, this has cooled down just a little bit. So we're going to add a pound of mascarpone cheese. Now, if you've not used mascarpone cheese, then you should know it is similar to cream cheese. The difference is it's an Italian cream cheese, and what that means, it's a little richer. It has a higher fat content than cream cheese, and so it is just slightly different, but it has a similar flavor to it. So we're going to put this whole container of this Italian cream cheese in here. I don't recommend using cream cheese if you're making an Italian dish that uses mascarpone cheese. However, if you can't find mascarpone cheese, then cream cheese is going to be your next best option, I think. The heat from the egg yolk will help smooth out this cheese. So we want to stir it until it's smooth. Our mascarpone and egg mixture, notice how light and fluffy it looks already before we even add our heavy cream. So it's beautiful. We're going to set it, already tastes good. I already had a taste. It's awesome. We're going to set it aside. And then here's where you can actually use the egg whites, the same 4 egg whites that we separated from our egg yolks. You're going to whip them the same way we're doing their heavy cream, but I'm using heavy cream here because of egg safety issues. I don't want to use raw eggs. So I'm going to pour in 1 1/4 cups of heavy cream, and that's going to go into my mixer bowl. And I actually had my bowl and my whisk attachment in the freezer for about 30 minutes so that it's as nice and cold It will do a great job at whisking up our milk, and to that, our ½ cup of sugar. And I'm using, again, ultra fine here because it's so powdery like that it will dissolve more quickly as the machine is mixing, and we won't have any clumps of granulated sugar. So we're gonna turn this on and let this run until it is stiff peaks. You wanna start low, a low speed, and slowly increase the speed. We don't want to whip it too quickly. We want it to be nice and whipped all around. And then we want to make sure we don't whip it too much because we don't want to end up with like a thick butter consistency. So just whip until stiff peaks. All right, we've reached stiff peaks. Take a look at inside the bowl. When you lift up the cream, everything just sort of stays in place and nothing flips over or is really, really soft. It's all pretty stiff in nature. We're going to take our cream and we're just going to easily and carefully fold it in to our mascarpone and egg yolk mixture. I clearly need a bigger bowl, so we're just going to put all this in there. How about that? That was an easy transfer. So if you wanted to use egg whites that are raw, you could certainly do that. That's the traditional way in Italy. You would just follow the same directions as we did with the heavy cream. Just whip up the egg whites until soft peaks, then add ½ cup of sugar, and then whip until stiff peaks. Now we don't want to let all the air out of this whipped cream here, so we're just going to fold it till it gets pretty well mixed in. So you can see the recipe is not any different than if we were to use egg whites. It's just that we want to be egg food safe. So again, about the food safety, let me quickly tell you, if you have access to pasteurized eggs, the FDA says you can eat those eggs raw, but they are still not recommended for young children, pregnant women, or those who are immunocompromised like me. That's why I've had to modify the traditional Italian mascarpone egg cream to make it more of an egg custard, but you still get the texture and the flavor that you expect, similar to an authentic raw egg version. This is going to be very rich and sweet because of the heavy cream. Take a look. Cream is done. You know what? I want to have a taste. That's rich and sweet. Forget the layered dish. Just eat this. All right, woo, it's assembly time. So we're going to take our Savoiardi cookies that I've made. Now these I actually made 2 days ago, so surprise, camera trick. Notice how they're nice and there's a little bit of a crisp to them because they've been sitting out. So I have an 8 by 11 inch pan here, and I'm just going to dip very quickly on each side my cookies, and I'm just going to line them in the pan. Now you don't want to let your cookies soak in the milk because they'll get too soggy. So just let them sit in there for just a second on either side and then put them in your pan. Cut your cookies if you need to so that you get enough in the pan and the pan is completely full. First part of 2 layers are done. So we're going to use half of the cream. So we'll try to eyeball it. And we're going to smooth out the cream on top. We want to smooth it out from end to end because we want to be able to see those layers. And I'm using a glass dish here. If you have a pretty dish you want to use, you can. You just won't be able to see the layers. You can clean your dish up as you go. Okay, now we're going to add our chopped up strawberries. Now if you were doing a cocoa and coffee tiramisu, the traditional, this is where you would sprinkle and dust the top with cocoa powder instead of adding the strawberries. However, why wouldn't you put the cocoa down and then put some strawberries on top of that? Now that could be really good. Make sure you get the strawberries on the edges, so again you can see that layer on the side of the dish. You're going to need at least a pound of strawberries for this dish. I always overbuy ingredients just to make sure I have enough. So I actually bought a 2-pound carton. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Particularly since now we're going to add our chocolate. So you could use chocolate chips here, or you could grate chocolate on top. I still have some mini chocolate chips from my previous bake that I did. So I'm just gonna sprinkle mini chocolate chips over this layer. And then I'm gonna grate the pretty chocolate on top. And if you put cocoa instead of strawberries on here, still top it with chocolate. You can have that extra chocolate flavoring in there. And I like the mini chocolate chips here because I don't think they're gonna be overwhelming, and they're small, so they sort of fit in between those little nooks and crannies in the dish. That's a beautiful dish, particularly since those strawberries are so pretty. I don't think we have enough height for another layer, but we're gonna do it. So now we're going back to the original. We're gonna quickly dip our cookies in the strawberry mixture, and I'm gonna start on this end. By the way, I highly recommend drinking this milk, whatever's left over. I had a taste of the milk earlier. Ooh, it is fabulous. Let's add the rest of the cream. Add your prettiest strawberries last. So I'm just going to take some dark chocolate and then just grate over the top. You can use chocolate chips here. All right, our tiramisu is complete. And I just used half of a chocolate bar to grate on top. Let's look at, you can see the layer, because we have one strawberry layer in the middle. Pretty. I think I'm gonna do one last garnish. You could put cocoa on top if you wanted to, particularly before you put the strawberries. I think I'm just gonna add 3 strawberries to the center. Why not? And there you are, strawberry tiramisu. Let's see what the inside of this looks like. Cuts nicely. Seems like it's firmed up some. So this has been in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. See if I can do this without making a mess, so we can see those beautiful layers. See that bottom cookie layer? The cream, the strawberry, the chocolate, the cookie, the cream, the strawberry, and the chocolate. It's a beautiful layered dish, and it held up too. So you can imagine serving that to your guest, and it looks so elegant. Highly recommend you making this dish. Sort of looks like an American strawberry shortcake. You've got the soft cookie layer, you've got your cream, and you have the fruit. All done. Allow your tiramisu to sit for at least 3 hours in the fridge before serving. Tiramisu is best left overnight in the fridge to allow the mixture to meld, the cream to firm up, and the cookies to soften just a little. This dessert is certainly elegant and rich. Even with strawberry and chocolate, I would still call it a tiramisu because you get the caffeine from the chocolate. The sugar and chocolate will certainly give you the pick-me-up you need. This recipe is not difficult, but it does have steps that need a little attention. Make the ladyfingers weeks ahead so they'll be ready to go whenever you get the urge for tiramisu. On the day you want to eat the tiramisu, make it that morning, set it in the fridge until the afternoon or evening. While the coffee and chocolate are traditional, everyone, especially your kids, will love you for the strawberry substitution, and you get strawberry milk when you're done. You can't go wrong with strawberries and chocolate, by the way, unless you're allergic. For you gluten-free eaters out there, like me, I have a gluten-free ladyfingers recipe coming out. This is the version I can't wait to try. Gluten-free ladyfingers, and according to Scott, they taste the same as the regular flour version because the flour is so minor in it. Thanks for watching. I hope you gained some useful tips today. If nothing else, I hope you've been inspired. You know, you could take a traditional recipe like an Italian tiramisu and cater the ingredients to fit your preferences. Until next time, cuocere il mondo.